4 weeks till Election Day. We have got a lot of different data that is out there to discuss with you. During the course of today's program, a new poll has dropped in Georgia. They tried to knock Herschel Walker out. They have failed. The newest poll from Emerson has Herschel Walker down 2 points to Reverend Raphael Warnock, 48-46. It has Brian Kemp up 5. Buck and I have been talking off the air. I'm just not of the opinion, and maybe I'll end up being wrong, but Brian Kemp is going to beat Stacey Abrams, and I think he's going to beat her quite soundly. And Buck, yesterday, I was watching television down here in the panhandle of Florida where I am, and we get both Georgia and Florida election ads. So basically every ad during a commercial break is an election ad for either Georgia or Florida, where we are right here in the very northernmost tip of Florida. And Stacey Abrams is so desperate that she's trying to blame Brian Kemp for Major League Baseball pulling the All-Star game out of Atlanta, even though all of the evidence shows that the reason why they pulled that All-Star game was because Stacey Abrams was lying about the new Georgia voting bill and it being Jim Crow 2.0 and everything else. But this is a big battleground. I think that Georgia has become the firewall for the Democrat Party, which is nervous about many other different states, and they're trying to protect the Reverend Raphael Warnock by throwing every nasty accusation of a personal level at Herschel Walker. And this poll, which occurred after all the drumbeat of last week, still has Herschel 2 points behind Warnock right there in a neck-and-neck dead heat. And here's what I think. I just don't think that many Georgians are going to vote for Brian Kemp and then vote for Raphael Warnock as well. In other words, split the ticket. I don't believe there are a lot of people out there that are going to say, hey, you know what, I'm for Brian Kemp, and then 7 points difference, which is what this poll for Herschel Walker. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and there is going to be this substantial divide, but what I said earlier in the show is I think Kari Lake is going to win, I think Lombardo is going to win in Nevada, and I think that Brian Kemp is going to win in Georgia, all three governors in really battleground states. And I think there's a good chance that Herschel Walker, Blake Masters, and also Adam Laxalt all win too. I just don't think there's going to be that many split tickets, Buck. I think you're either on Team Red
You're very
or Team
optimistic
Blue.
Now. You were getting a little worried in July.
I was.
When they were running all the abortion
nervous.
ads. I was telling you, these guys they're running the Roe propaganda here all over the place. We stay the course, and I'm psyched because you are optimistic at this stage.
I am, because I just think by the time people go in and vote 4 weeks from today, and I understand some of you are voting early because absentee ballots and early voting is going on, everything else. Some of you have already cast your ballots who are listening to us right now. But I think this is a Team Red or Team Blue election. And I think most people who are independents out there that are trying to make up their mind in which direction will they go are going to end up, I really do, on Team Red, because inflation is bad, the border's bad, crime's bad. I mean, everything that Joe Biden has touched has turned worse.
And I think that the political media machinery of the last 6 years has been, for the Democrats, so monomaniacal in its focus on Donald Trump that I really think they always say that people end up preparing, militaries prepare for the last war, not the war they're actually about to fight. Democrats were fighting the last political war against Trump still, and I know they're going to do this January 6th hearing. It's going to be a dud. The only people that are going to watch that, think that MSNBC anchors have worthwhile analysis of American politics. So it's not going to change anything, and I really think that they convince themselves, the executives and the green room chatter in places like PBS, NBC, CBS, New York Times editorial page, New York Times news page, etc., that we can really focus in on Trump and threats to democracy. And over time, people just look at this and say, what really affects me every day? January 6th does not affect any of us every day at all, not even a little bit. And Trump is not front and center in this as much as they tried to make him front and center because he's not on any ballot of any kind. So I think that they've effectively run the wrong playbook, and now it's just getting to be desperate. And of course, they've got their October surprises against Herschel, and they're trying other things like that. But Republicans are racist and Donald Trump is Hitler. It's actually not going to cut it, not with inflation at 8%.
No doubt. And I actually think the January 6 hearings occurring on Thursday, which they're hoping to tamp down, I bet, the inflation numbers. The inflation numbers for September are coming out on Thursday. That's really the last data point we're going to get on the economy before everybody goes in and votes on November 8th, on 4 weeks from today. So those numbers are going to be bad, and I think focusing on January 6th is going to be even worse. And Buck, Tulsi Gabbard earlier today, so a lot of you will remember Tulsi Gabbard. We played the clip where she effectively announces she's leaving the Democrat Party because of their many different failures. But what is emblematic about Tulsi is she's from Hawaii. She's got an interesting ethnic background. But I think she's representative of a huge storyline that is being missed, that is going to be hard to miss come January of next year, which is this. A lot of the people who Republicans are going to elect are going to be women. Many of them are going to be women from a minority background. And many of them are going to, I think, really stick sort of a thumb in the eye of, oh, Republicans are racist, which is the number one go-to attack that Democrats try to trot out alongside our democracy is under siege. Buck, you and I have talked about this. There are a lot of women all of a sudden who are going to be able to go after AOC toe-to-toe. The reason why AOC is getting so much attention ever since she got elected is because she's basically an Instagram influencer who ended up in Congress. She's good-looking. She is charismatic on television, on video, and that cuts through because, let's be honest, a lot of politicians are not good looking. As has been said for a long time, politics is often Hollywood for ugly people, right? I mean, that's a phrase that is out there in the zeitgeist and has been out there for a long time. I don't know who said it the first time. So when you have somebody, whether it's John F. Kennedy, who is particularly unique and young and attractive, they look even more attractive relative to the other politicians, right? And so I think the AOCs of the world, these Instagram influencers, have gotten a lot of attention, but there is going to be a real pushback. And I think that Tulsi Gabbard is emblematic of how large the Republican tent is being as the woke universe constricts the number of people who are willing to support the Democrats.
And, there's no secret weapon in the Democrat arsenal of politics right now. Kamala Harris, for example, is somebody who could, if she were adept at making arguments, maybe be, because Joe Biden can't do it, obviously, right? Joe Biden, we talk about his cognition and his age and everything else. And as I've been saying, and people have been they agree with me, the aviators thing is so you don't see his eyes, his face, and look at how old and vacant he is. It's totally true. That's, he's just Mr. Aviators. It's weird. He walks around with sunglasses on all the time. They're hiding his face. Kamala Harris is out there making this case about the wide open border, the illegals being bused to Democrat-controlled cities. Just listen to this one.
Talk about political theater. I mean, playing games with people's lives, like with their lives. There were mothers with sleeping babies getting off those buses. And I just think it's an absolute dereliction of duty. If you see a problem and if we agree that we need to address it, then if you're a leader, participate in a solution, right? When we first came in office, the first bill that we proposed was for a pathway for citizenship, was to fix a broken immigration system, which was broken under the previous administration.
I mean, Clay, did you ever have, you haven't really, I've worked for some massive bureaucracies. I mean, the CIA is a massive bureaucracy.
I have not.
The NYPD is a massive bureaucracy. And we would sit through some of these HR trainings, these government-sponsored HR trainings that made me want to just like remove my eardrums with a spoon. I mean, just do anything to make the pain stop. Every time Kamala starts speaking about something, I am transported to those completely pointless, but everybody has to pay attention, HR seminars that we would have in government. Here she's talking about dereliction of duty when it comes to the border. First of all, the people she's talking about, this emoting she's doing of, the women and their children, they're living on the streets in El Paso. I mean, they're overrunning border areas. This is what we've all seen. There is no infrastructure to deal with this there. So they're moving them to major Democrat-controlled hubs where there's a large welfare state, a large welfare apparatus. What's the problem? They should be welcoming this, but they're not.
Yeah, Kamala Harris still hasn't been to the border. I don't think that Joe Biden has been to the border in like 15 years. I mean, the United States border. They've made it to go be concerned about Ukraine's border, even though they can't manage to be concerned about our own border. And this is emblematic, I think, of how difficult they are finding the closing arguments to be. Because if you're a Democrat right now and you are sitting and you're saying, okay, it's 28 days till the midterms, I don't even know what they can actually argue for. Now, they can make personal attacks against the Herschel Walkers of the world. They can argue that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and they can continue with their January 6th hearings. But in terms of what usually the referendum is on midterm elections, which is, how is the president doing? What could you even point to and say Joe Biden has done even just an okay job? It's not even just, Buck, that he has been mediocre. It's that he's failed in every possible facet. And that's why the argument for Democrats is Republicans are awful and evil and venal, and they did these things in their past, which is unacceptable, which has nothing to do with today, right? That's the Herschel Walker attack. It's Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump's not on the ballot, and they've done everything they could based on Mar-a-Lago to try to make that a story. It hasn't really worked. They're still doing their tone-deaf January 6th hearings on Thursday. And then you look and say, okay, like, what is the story here? They tried abortion. It doesn't seem like that has really worked because I think a lot of people, first of all, are in states where abortion is not an issue. And second, I think a lot of people understand that this is a state issue. I don't even know if I were on their side, Buck. I'm not even sure what arguments they have to make as we sit 4 weeks out in terms of what Joe Biden has actually done and how it's made the country better. I think James Carville got it years ago. It's the economy, stupid. That was 1992. It's still true in 2022. And I don't know what else they can argue. I really don't.
I mean, the insurrection, which keeps me up every night. I mean, that's really what's at the center. Clay, vague threats to our democracy. This makes me weep when I think of the unspecified threats to our democracy. I mean, they went from undermining our institutions to threats against our democracy without ever specifying. What exactly are they talking about? Doesn't matter. Sounds scary.
Does sound scary. Not going to work, however. The numbers all breaking. I shared a lot of the data from an offshore and overseas betting markets. Things are rolling right now for Republicans. Get out and vote. And for you independents who are listening to us, I would just ask a simple question. How has Joe Biden made your life better? What has he done in 2 years that has made your life better in any way? I bet most of you can't answer a single thing that he's done to make your lives better. It's maybe a sign that you shouldn't be supporting him or his party.